We are live. Hey, welcome everybody to the Bourbon Tie-In. Great night tonight. Awkward Friday night, but good Friday to everybody that's in here. Got Perry from this My Bourbon Podcast, one of the very first people I ever watched on the tubes.
Before I even had my own real YouTube channel, too.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
what's up? What's up, Bobby?
Yeah, you know what? Having a great day. Just did Fire Friday out on the deck with Evan Williams. Nice. And excited to get into the Heaven Hills and just sit around and chat and, you know, enjoy Friday.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting into this here mellow corn because for anybody who doesn't know, they actually created an Instagram page. Heaven Hill created a mellow corn Instagram page yesterday. And yesterday being April Fool's, everybody was like, we get it. It's just a big joke. No, they're being dead serious with it. And I think it's the best thing they possibly could have done with this brand.
Oh, definitely. So, what's up, Mr. Joseph Abreu?
Joseph
Abreu.
Oh, man, he's going to be in Kentucky soon. He's going to be in Kentucky tomorrow, actually.
Joseph says Perry's getting ready to sell some mellow corn on QVC.
Now, folks, if you call in right now, you're going to get 8 cases for the price of 9. This is a great deal. You don't know it yet, but give it a shot. You're going to call in. You're going to love what we got for you. And we got Darlene over here on the side. She's gonna talk to you. She's gonna have a really good time. Darlene, are you? No, okay. Darlene had a heart attack. We got to go to another caller.
Matter of fact, it's a great time to understand that, hey, that 8 cases is now 9.
I'm getting a word from my producer. We're being shut down.
yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I was talking to the Gunny earlier about mellow corn because I've had it with the Gunny, right? And that's the thing, right? We do a lot of taste. We've done tastings and I swear the notebooks that we've done for years. But I traveled, and you know, if you know anything about me, like the Gunny's my brother,
right? And, yeah. Didn't he come with you when you guys? No,
that was my buddy Michael from work.
Right.
He's my Lee Summit, Kansas City, like Lucas Liquor store pick guru. He has store pick for days.
Sorry, I forgot. It's been a long time since you all were here.
You know, it seems like a long time, but the difference is, hey, John T., the difference is that COVID was like 6 years long.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah.
You know, I was sitting here, I have to do some traveling, right? And I haven't traveled since March of 2020, which isn't that long ago. It's like a year. But when they said I was going to travel, and I was like, I don't even remember how to log into these places.
What's a hotel? I forgot.
What travel service do we use for booking airfare?
You mean that I have to go someplace where there's no Wi-Fi for like 5 minutes? What the heck?
Yeah. No doubt about it. Just insane.
That's my, I don't know how that voice came about, but that's my guy who probably should have like a handbook for everything that he does voice. He's like, what?
Mr. Hendo? Hendo's in the house.
Will Henderson, what's going on, buddy?
Hendo needs to send us a fight.
Does. He sent one for me and good old boy Matt Porter for an episode we did a few weeks back. And it was great, man. It was wild. The one out of that flight that probably is going to get me in trouble was the Chattanooga rye. I did not like it. Like both Porter and I were like, this is bad. Like we were just straight up like, I can't drink any more of this, man. Why would anybody want to subject themselves to it? And you know, I'm sorry, Chattanooga. I don't know, man. Like I like your bourbon. I think your bourbon's pretty good, but otherwise, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is just understanding that there's like the one thing that I really enjoy about doing is that I don't think I will ever say that I hate something. The thing that I like to do is say, hey, listen, if this is your palate, this is something you'll like. I particularly, if you identify my palate, I don't like it.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't disagree with that notion, and I try to be as I try to be as possibly can, but it's also really important to me to give honest reactions and to just be upfront and be like, hey, here's why I don't like it. Here's what I don't like about it. Trying to explain stuff like that. But every now and then it does kind of get the better of me where I'm like, this is just really awful. And you should feel bad if you like it. Like, and I don't go that far, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just, the emotional side of me kind of gets the better of me from time to time.
Well, I don't think that's
thing,
wrong.
but...
And I agree. I don't think it's wrong because people that are watching you are going to identify with your palate, right? So when I look at the people that I identify with, right, there's 3 people that I've watched long enough and I know enough that my palate lines up with them. And I line up with you, Jason C., and Sarah. No doubt about it.
So, I
want to talk about. I know you have to go up against Sarah, man. That's going to be.
Let's talk about that for a second. So ADHD whiskey is in a whole like bracket challenge taste off for.
I wish I was in it. I wish I was in it.
It absolutely, like, first off, when I saw who I was going up against, I was like, this is going to be really difficult. And then as soon as I saw that the first round was me going up against Sarah, I was like, I don't know how if I'm actually gonna get out of this alive. Because I mean, and like, I say this just because she's my friend, but I mean this truly and sincerely. She has one of the best palates out there. And what's great about Sarah's palate too is that she's very much taken the Peggy No Stevens approach of not limiting herself to just giving tasting notes and just talking about why a bourbon or a rye is good. She's using it and creating food with it. And she's creating pairings with it and being very mindful about what it is that her palate maybe likes or doesn't like. And I think that, she's doing a great job with the work that she's done. And she's just kind of one of those people where it's like, keep doing you. I want to do some of that too eventually. But anyway, Sarah's awesome.
I think that's fair. I spent a little bit of time down talking to Jason C. Mm-hmm. And we both agree that, we pretty much identify with Sarah's palate. Mm-hmm. There's, I line up way more with Sarah from It's Bourbon Night than anybody else. But the thing is that it's a really straight, and she does the one thing that you were talking about earlier. She doesn't pull no punches. She either likes it or don't, but she does something that I'm not saying that I do, but I definitely can pair and blend. Mm-hmm. And I know my palate and I know my strengths. And I've had plenty of people sit there and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about having this and this. What would you pair with it? And I'd say, well, hey, you might have to blend to get to that, and like the other day, yesterday, right? When you were doing, you blended that beer.
Oh, I did it.
You put
I did a.
Was that a pale ale you put it into?
Yeah, it was. No, it was a. No, wait.
Your stout was with the Elijah Craig, which I thought
Elijah Craig barrel proof. I did the. I did that with the Rebel 100 and the Pale Ale.
Yeah.
And that was mostly just me being an idiot, like trying to get rid of the stuff that was in my glass so I can move on. But
rough.
Why can't I not remember the name of this? Like the same thing happened to me last night.
I saw you do the one I was watching with it. You did, because the one you did at the end was right, because I was sitting there saying, hey, that's going to be coconut. So you're going to get that. But before
Boilermaker. That's what it's called. Sorry.
Yeah, you did turkey rare breed. Yeah, it's a Boilermaker.
Yeah, I did rare breed with Narragansett, which I love. Honestly, like I was considering doing 101 with Narragansett too, but it just seemed like it just seemed like the rare breed was the better choice, honestly.
Yeah, because I did not too long ago. I did a blend where I did one bourbon, one Scotch, and one beer, but I cheated. I absolutely cheated. I didn't do a bourbon. I did it a Woodford American malt because I was like, man, I got to have a high malted barley because I did a Guinness stout, which I knew that was going to be like heavy espresso beans.
Right.
And then I was like, well, how do I cocoa that up? Well, malted barley, anything above 6% brings out cocoa.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, how do I add a fruit? Well, that was a Glenfiddich 12. And so I blended them. And I was like, when I was done, I was like, hey, that's pretty good. But I think if you take this blend and put it through your day old coffee grounds and just let it go cold into your coffee, it'd be really good. And I had two guys that actually reached back to me and said, that shit's really good. So I was like, okay, well, I got to do it because it sounded amazing.
Daniel's got a great question there too.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think blending comes with the idea that you think about what you're doing and how to pair it. And mixing shit is just grabbing it and throwing it in for no reason at all.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of doing with that.
Yeah,
with that Rebel 100 last night. I mean, it was not mindful. It was just kind of like, I'm just trying to get this out of the way. And, you know, Boilermakers can work every now and then. That was not one of those times. So,
yeah. Now,
beer could have been colder.
I was watching it though. But, you know, let's get back to the smell of corn, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm so happy you brought this up because I have had it. But, you know, I think that's one of those things that, you know, we can, especially in the tubes and even on Instagram, right? Because on both the worlds, everybody's trying to see what's the next best thing. And everybody's on the two big pushes right now are the crafts and the blends. And they're looking at the blends and the crafts. Well, how we get away from some of the just pure root stuff that's really good.
Yeah.
It's really easy
absolutely.
to look past it. So like today I did on Instagram, I did just nothing more than an Evan Williams looking at like 1783. Now the one I had that was a little bit off the beat was the master blend. So I did 1783 master blend, single barrel and bottle to bond.
Nice.
And just the idea of saying, hey, listen, these are the things that, you know, why are they good? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think that you can try something, and would you agree with this? You can try something and not be okay. But as your palate advances down the road and you go back to something, you're like, hey, you know what? That's not nearly as bad as I thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that palates in general just kind of nobody goes into anything with a perfect palate, for one. Two, I mean, as you taste more things, as you develop more flavors that you can identify, yeah, things start to become more appealing to you. For me recently, and Swan and I are kind of going through the same journey together. He's going through it a little bit quicker than I am, but just discovering that we like Scotch, like, it started for me with just really liking single malts, and then branching out to, and that was like an American single malt that I tried for the first time. But then starting to branch out to some of the non-peated scotches, kind of developing a flavor or a taste for them. And then finally getting around to peated scotches and feeling like I can handle this. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I still prefer bourbon, but at the same time, you know, it's really cool. It's different. And it gives me the opportunity to kind of go off the path a little bit. But I'll give a good example. I'll give 2 examples actually of how somebody's palate can change over the years. So first off, I'll use Swan as an example as well. He had 2 bottles way back in the day that he just did not care for. One of them was an old label Elijah Craig barrel proof. Mm-hmm. And he just kept saying, it's too hot. I have a hard time drinking it. It's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot. And he just gave it to me. And I was like, okay, that's pretty sweet. But then he had, and he actually stuck this one out, and I don't know his reasoning behind it, but he had the Booker's Blue Nights batch as well. And I mean, I will admit that one is quite hot. I mean, it's got a lot of alcohol burn on it, especially for a Booker's, which I know tends to be a little bit more well-rounded. But he stuck that one out, and he said he's gone back to it since then, and feels a little bit more favorable about it. And then kind of on the opposite end of that is the thing that we all go through where it's like, what were your stepping stones, your building block bourbons or whiskeys? And the big one for me is Bullet. So I started when I started drinking bourbon, Bullet was my go-to. I loved it. And then I went to OBC for the first time, and Iverson, was at that point a waiter, and he's now the head bartender, the head mixologist. He said, well, he's asking, and for anybody who's never been to OBC Kitchen here in Lexington, they have one of the biggest selections of bourbon and really whiskey in general
easily
that you will find in a bar or a restaurant.
I think that's the first time that we both seen the Double Eagle Very Rare, right?
Yeah.
You and I were together. They brought it out for us.
Yeah, they did. They
just let us look at it. We didn't get to try it. We just looked at it.
We just pointed and went, ooh, ah.
You were like, ooh. I took a picture of it. I didn't know if I'd ever see it again.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. But so I was kind of getting a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of bourbons that they had. And so I just was like, Iverson, I don't know what to pick. What should I do? And as a good bartender, as a good host, he was like, well, what do you like? And I said, well, I really like Bullet. That's what I've been drinking for the most part. And he said, well, let's try this. And he brought out a Four Roses Ozo. And it's still my favorite Four Roses to this day. And I don't drink Bullet nearly as much as I used to. I don't really. It's good. It's not great, but at the end of it all, that's where how I got to where I am now in terms of a taster.
I know one of the very first ones that was I would say my go-to, right? I was more on like Gentleman Jack. And I would usually have them give me Gentleman Jack stirred neat. So I wanted it chilled. The chill knocks it off. But at the same time, neat, you still got some, but it knocked it down. And I can remember sitting, I mean, my very first stuff I was introduced to was with the Gunny. And it was just like Big Brother shit. So I was like sucking it up because I had a particular set of skills, and the Marine Corps says you can drink everything and just suck it up. But the first time I really started enjoying it was Gentleman Jack on the chilled neat Gentleman Jack. And then it just advanced from there.
Yeah. See, my dad's go-to bourbon drink, and it has been for years, mainly just because this is kind of the same thing that he saw his parents drinking when he was growing up. Theirs was like Dewar's, but for him, it's Maker's Mark on the rocks with a splash of water. That's what he always ordered when we went out and everything. And, at some point I was like, well, I guess I should probably try that. Like, if this is what my dad likes, maybe I'll like it too. And honestly, like right off the bat, I didn't care for that. I thought it was, automatically I was like, this is really strange and watered down, and I don't want to drink it like this. So, I did my rounds. I did my, Wild Turkey American Honeys. I did my bourbon Cokes, my bourbon and ale 8s, and, bourbon on the rocks, and then graduated eventually to mainly just doing neat pours, excuse me. And that's just kind of, where I've stuck with it. But yeah, without Dad having Makers on the rocks with a splash of water, I might not be here.
The thing is that, and it's funny because like on Instagram, I did an Instagram interview with the sarcastic whiskey wench, and I highly recommend, if you are on Instagram, follow her. She has not only is she just a unbelievably good human, she's above and beyond that. I mean, not to get into her personal life, but listen, I don't know very many people that can handle her life situation with her kids and all that stuff with such grace. And she knows Irish and Scotch straight up. I mean, if you're asking her like, hey, what do you think of this? She knows it. And cheers, James. James Morgan just jumped on here. And, the thing is that I love nothing more. Like, the community is great. But I think that, there's and I've said this multiple times, there's an Instagram world and there's a YouTube world. Now, I will say the thing that's different about them, the YouTube world is very, very, very supportive of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit more inclusive. Instagram can be very high schoolish. There's people on Instagram that are like, you're part of my group or not. You don't find that in YouTube. But there's beautiful people in the Instagram world, and of the people that I've met that I really have high thoughts of, sarcastic whiskey wench, because she is what she is. She's very honest. She was a U.S. transplant to the UK. She has dual citizenship soon. She was a bourbon person, now a Scotch person, and so we did an episode of bourbon to Scotch, Scotch to bourbon. And she said, well, hey, if you're a Scotch person trying to transition, let's do Glenfiddich 12. And I said, okay, well, if you're a bourbon guy trying to move this way, let's do a Woodford Reserve American malt. Because American malt gives you that weird, hey, Mike Stahl, it gives you that weird, almost, it's not as Scotchy, but man, it makes you feel like it kind of is. Yeah. And when you hit that, so it was really funny. We did it and we were pulling notes back and forth. I said, hey, Sarah, and her name's Sarah. I said, Sarah, let's blend it 1 for 1. I said, this is going to be a chocolate orange all day long.
Yeah.
And we did it. And she was like, oh my God, that's a chocolate orange for sure.
That's awesome.
Very and cool. So it's just fun, but she's, her first live feed, we did it together, and now she's doing more, and she has this really cool segment that it's really strange, but beautiful, right? So she's interviewing people and she has a little, I think it's a 15-minute segment, is what made you fall in love with bourbon, or what made you fall in love with a whiskey? And she's interviewing people to get, what is the backstory? What did you come through? And she's putting up segments. So I was very honored that I was in that group. I was her second one. Her first one was her sister. And, it's really cool to look at the stories for me, it's really simple. It's my big brother. Me and the Gunny are 12 years apart. He went to the Marine Corps when I was in kindergarten. And I had a big brother that I was the most proudest kid on earth for, but didn't know him. Yeah, Perry, you do need a bar stool.
I do. Yeah, I'm fidgety, but even if I were sitting down, I'd be fidgety. But it is what it is. Yeah, but you can't have a bar stool behind a bar. That's just bad etiquette, right?
Are you saying I have bad etiquette?
No. I have are you sitting on a bar stool behind a bar?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, now, here's where I was coming from.
I made sure my bar stool was so high that I am adequately above the bar.
See, now I feel like a real prick. But...
Oh, don't feel like a prick. Well, right now, I don't have. You know what? I don't sit when I'm hosting, but if I'm on a video feed for an hour and a half, I'm gonna sit.
That's true. That's true. But I don't know. I didn't quite think that one out. But Joseph, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I could probably use it. But where I was coming from with that comment that made me automatically feel bad, was that being behind the bar for me, and it's not like I use it in this way very often, but being behind the bar is you're being the host, You're trying to entertain people, and you're trying to give them something. I wouldn't say memorable. I think memorable is kind of that's not really where I wanted to go with that, but it's a presentation. Being the bar is about presentation. I just realized I haven't turned on my Blanton's lamp, which I don't even know if you can see.
Joseph Brazo said, Perry said, prick, now I'm clutching my pearls.
I don't say many bad words. I'm not a bad words guy, but like a couple of them I'll let slip every now and then, just because,
Oh no! Hey, listen. You know what? I will say this: like someone was really surprised because I'm a 4th generation Marine, and we are only taught one language. But for the past 12 years, I'm an international traveler on every foreign soil. So in my mind, and this is very true to who I am. At no time do I ever feel comfortable in the idea that I could say something that would affect one person. I don't want that. That's not who I am. I believe, and I've said this a million times to the point that people would be annoyed by it. Everybody's nice, but I believe everybody's waiting for someone to be nice to them. And so I don't want to be that person that puts off anything that would be found to be offensive. Having said that, doesn't mean that I am not who I am. I just, having been in front of customers for 11 years, I'm really quick thinking, and I'm catching myself before I say stuff. Could I sit here and talk like a sailor? Yes, but they don't talk like Marines. Marines are 10 times worse. So I have to be like less than that. So
Right. See, for me, it's this is a weird side conversation.
It's just good. We're just talking.
But it's just not anything that I necessarily feel compelled to include in my vocabulary.
Right.
I was always the good kid growing up. I never really got in trouble, and that was kind of part of it too. I was just like,
surprisingly enough,
I don't want to add one thing on.
I wasn't either until I was like a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Joseph Fraser says, for the record, I don't drink, smoke, or swear. He's like, oh shit, I do drink, smoke, and swear.
I was gonna say we've hung out a couple times, buddy.
Yeah,
so just once, I guess.
I know Joe. You know Joseph better than I do, but we're getting there. Joseph and I are getting there because we are cigar brothers for sure. And
Joseph he's coming into Lexington this weekend. Gonna be here for a week. And
when's he coming in? Because it's funny, we're leaving Sunday for Florida, but my wife said we need to look at 4 hours in getting a hotel, and I was like, well, 4 hours in is Lexington. And she's like, yeah, but we need to actually make it to Florida, and I was like, oh. I was like, I could spend like a day or two just in Lexington.
Yeah. Where are you all doing in Florida? Just going to the beach?
Yeah. We got a place down in Treasure Island, south of St. Petersburg, for the week.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of getting to the point that you someday will get back to is that we're basically newlyweds because we're empty nesters.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the second marriage. What are you moving to? Are you moving to 94?
Yeah, I went ahead and pulled up the small batch.
All right. Well, before you do that, for a second, just let's elaborate a little bit on Mellow Corn Bottle and Bond. Because I think the thing that's really nice about it, like I did the Evan Williams earlier, right? And I have it fresh in my mind. And I think the thing that this Mellow Corn brings that's, I think, besides the fact that, okay, it's Mellow Corn, it's bottled and bond, so all the bottled and bond stuff that it comes with.
Yeah.
But, I think the thing that I'm probably more surprised about it is that, you don't have the barreling, you don't have the stuff that would go with it, but the mouthfeels are decent, but the finish is damn good.
Bernie Lubbers has been for years touting that people need to give mellow corn a chance. And honestly, I'm in the same boat as he is. It is, of course, not bourbon. It's straight corn whiskey, but it's just, I think that it's a really good tool if you are trying to use it to broaden your palate. You know, like if you're trying to understand where those sweet notes are coming from with the corn in the mash bill, this is just going to straight up give it to you. Same thing goes for single malts. Same thing goes for high rye ryes, of course. But I think that this is one that it should not be skipped out on. I know that it's not the prettiest looking bottle on the shelf, but it's affordable. It's bottled in bond. It's part of our nation's heritage and should be celebrated. You know.
Well, I think the thing that, I think the thing that's overly surprising is that it's not easy to find. In Kentucky it is. You can't find this.
I was gonna say Kentucky's.
Listen, I'm in Ohio, and you will never ever find mellow corn in Ohio. No chance. The only reason I have this is because the Gunny has it, most everything. And,
right.
He makes trips to Kentucky all the time. But I think the thing that's overly surprising. So if you can get past and I think that we have a due diligence to say, okay, it's corn. Just like you could say anything. Me and the Gunny used to always say something really funny. It's like, hey, whiskey's hot. Duh. It's 80 proof. The thing is, acclimate your palate, and then it doesn't get so hot. But there's more than corn on this. There's way more than corn on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I don't think that I would have thought, because it's been a while since I've done it, that mellow corn has great viscosity on it. I mean, it's coating. It's a coater, and it has finish. You don't have the char from the barrel, but you have this unbelievable coating that there's plenty of stuff. You look at, like I did tastings earlier with Evan Williams, and 1783 is a decent drinker. But 1783 does not have a finish. It doesn't have a finish. It's very, very fruits. It's very citrusy. It pulls out those things that is really unique. But this has a better finish all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. Of course, once we start talking about the finish, that's when I start noticing it more and more. But it starts to introduce the side of bourbon that we all love, the caramels, the vanillas, and I find it to be just, it's a good in-betweener. It's good to kind of break out now and then, retrain your palate a little bit, give you that little refresher course. But
so Joseph asked, do they not use charred barrels on mellow corn? No, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't char their stuff at all. So the color is exactly as it comes out, right? It is not. So I'm going to Elijah 94. It's on my fancy decanter that I found at like a garage sale. But am I right, Perry? From what I read, they don't char their barrels for mellow corn. I didn't see anywhere charred barrels. I think it's
confirm.
I think it's just barreled, not charred. Because I think the color. So find out. Maybe I'm wrong.
So the reason that I'm having any pause with that is just because of the bottled and bond label.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it has to be charred unless it's bourbon, right? And even in bourbon, it only has to be an oak container. It doesn't even have to be a barrel. It can literally be a pail.
From their website, compared to the deep amber color created by the newly charred oak barrels in the production of our other bourbons and American whiskeys, the result of the used barrel is a lighter straw-colored spirit. So they are still using a charred barrel, but it's just not a freshly charred
It's just
barrel.
a used one. So that would be more.
Yeah,
that would be more along the lines of like why it looks more like what you might see in an Irish or a Scotch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you look at that, but you're not pulling that like. Yeah, it does have a high corn presence, Daniel, but it is not a new American charred. And when you get away from use, that's why listen, you can have a significantly old Scotch and it not be dark. I mean, you can have literally,
that's true.
You can literally have a 18-year-old Scotch not even be close to being as dark as a 5-year-old bourbon. If they're doing char number 4, if they're doing number 4 char, no way. You think of this, right? This is Elijah Craig, just 94. Let me get over here, right? I'm so dyslexic with 94, and this is this.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
We know one thing, that this is bottled and bond, so it's at minimum 4 years. The Elijah Craig 94,
yeah,
totally different complexity, right?
You know
so
what?
Craig 94 is on decant.
I truly did not realize up until right now. So you guys are getting to see this live on air, that it doesn't have to be a new charred oak barrel to be considered bottled and bond.
No,
that is just.
That's only to be a
why I just don't know why. I don't know why that was also so really implanted in my brain.
Yeah.
I mean,
because I think, Perry, the most times when we think of bottled and bond, we're thinking bourbons. There's nothing that says that a bottled and bond has to be bourbon. It just has to be a minimum of what? It has to come off of 160, bottled greater than 80. It's 100 in proof. It's got to be 4 years, same master distiller, same distilling season, and it's got to be technically, but not technically. There's nowhere that says it, but it's always the case, glass bottled. Some people say that it has to be glass bottled. There's nowhere in the nomenclature that says it must be a glass bottle. But a lot of people, you've never seen a bottled and bond in a plastic bottle. So
I beg to differ. One of my favorite cheap bottled and bond products comes from Heaven Hill, only in a handle, and it's TW Samuels, and it's a plastic handle.
Yeah. So
and actually, I think JW Dant, which I think is
my JW Dant bottled and bond is glass.
Yeah, but the handle.
Well, the only reason I say that is, not because I'm all knowing, because obviously I'm not. But if you watch like Neat, right? If you watch Neat says, for whatever reason, they say glass, and I was like, oh, I've studied the Steward test, and I've done the whiskey stave and thief thing. There's nowhere that says glass.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where did they come up with that on the Neat? When they were talking about it in Neat. So I think that's
something for Steve Zahn to riff on.
Yeah, I think it was just maybe he was drinking too much beer and booze. And it makes you gassy, right?
Hey man, let me tell you. So I actually, Steve Zahn, he's not a native Kentuckian, but he has kind of made Central Kentucky his home, and that's one of the reasons that he was so prominent in Neat. And he owns a farm out in Bourbon County in Paris, Kentucky. And he'll come into town and get supplies and get feed or whatever. But he's also a UK fan, which I think is kind of funny. But so I used to work at a college bookstore on UK's campus when I was in undergrad. I never did post grad, so when I was in college, and he just kind of came into the bookstore one day, because we also had apparel, we also had merchandise and everything, and I was like all nervous because I love Steve Zahn. He's one of, like, if there's a movie with Steve Zahn in it, it could be the worst movie I've ever seen, but he would be the highlight of it 9 times out of 10. And excuse me. I just kind of feebly, like I was shaking and I'm nervous and everything, and I'm like, Mr. Zahn, can I have your autograph, please? He's like, yeah, kid, that's fine. So I gave him my notebook and I gave him my pen, And it's this big, fancy looking signature. And underneath it said, kick ass all the time.
That's funny.
I was like, that is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And he's not very tall either. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, he's short.
Yeah, he's a short dude, but he's very cool. I want to get him on the podcast. I have been just dying to have him on the show sometime. And, you know, I maybe if COVID hadn't happened, I could have pursued that a little bit further. But yeah, who's to say?
So I know Daniel put in here that I actually do, contrary to most people, I do have a Patreon, and I do have a paypal.me/bourbon battalion. So anything that goes to that goes straight out to the channel. My regular working life and my wife support our real life, but everything in here, we go in there and do that kind of stuff. So anything goes in here, and for not very much money at all, I have merch. I have a lot of stuff lined up in my Patreon. You can get fancy Bourbon Battalion shirts that I'm wearing. I have like 4 different iterations of shirts, whether it be shirts or hats or Glencairns or whiskey safe. I have all that kind of stuff, you know. So if you feel so inclined, happy to have you. I love everybody that's on here, but I am just true to me. You know, I'm not a heavy editor. I have a work ethic that is in my personal world. I'm working on trying to develop more time into some of that kind of stuff. But for now, I had the funniest thing, Perry. I had someone send a message to me and say, hey, you know, I'm an editor, and I was watching one of your films, and I looked really hard and I couldn't find where you did your cut. I said, well, I don't. He's like, how do you go that long and not edit? I said, well, I spent 11 years as a front end customer trainer to customers all over the world. So I think somewhere in my process, in the back of my head, I'm thinking about what I want to say before I say it. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that, like on my last video, right? I was sitting here. It's like the first time I ever did this. I was on my Wednesday Wednesday feed, and we did 3x3, which was a Knob Creek 9, 12, and 15. 3 of them, 3 years apart. And we looked at them, we tasted them, we profiled them, and then we blend them. And I can tell you right now, Joseph Brazu, you need to watch that, because that is one of the best cigar blends I've ever created ever in my entire existence. And I've made a lot of cigar blends. But we went through and did it. Towards the end of it, I had to pee so bad it hurt. Like, I was aching. And I looked at my brother. I said, do you want to jump on here? And he's like, no. I said, dude, I have to pee. I have a blue Yeti. That's like picks up everything. And someone's like, dude, that's like the funniest thing I ever heard. And I was like, ah. And I was like, hey, it's just real. I'm not editing it. Life happens.
Yeah, of course.
So I made the mistake one time of, you know what, being hardcore. I have this like Marine Corps mentality. And I was sitting here on a feed one time, and I was like, I knew I couldn't hold it anymore. And I was just like, you know what, whatever. And I went upstairs, and my wife was like, did you pee? And I was like, yeah. She's like, why? Because I couldn't leave my feed. She's like, that's the stupidest thing I ever seen in my life. I said, you're not Marine. Get over it. So Elijah Craig, for the small batch, dude, this is my decanter. Listen, the Gunny and I, whenever I say, it sounds like he peed in the Blue Yeti. So, hey, I'm just saying, shit happens, right? But the Gunny and I both agree, if you're going to have something decanted on your bar and you want a go-to that never disappoints, it's Elijah Craig 94.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. What's funny is that Elijah Craig has always been what I say bourbon should taste like. It's just the very, I don't want to say stock standard, because that sounds almost negative. But it's just got all the classic tropes of bourbon, and it does it so exceptionally well at such a great price that you're right. I mean, it is something that should be easily accessible and should also be a pretty common crowd pleaser. I don't know of too many people, honestly, I don't know of anybody really who had Elijah Craig's small batch 94 proof and just went, not for me.
I've never,
you know what I mean?
I agree. I've never had that, especially Buchanan, right? The thing that is the Buchanan, right? And one of the things that, I guess I pride myself on, right? Because Steve and I have done this for so many years, and Steve is like the gunny.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got in the tubes, I was like, there's a lot of people out here doing this, and they're doing it right. But the one thing they're doing, and I can tell because I watch diligently. I don't watch the person necessarily. I look at their bottles. I'm looking at that bottle not being off the neck. I'm like, okay, they've opened that up. They've done it. They've tried it. They've tasted it. They got their palate. And I was like, but most people do a 4-step. They do the eyes, the nose, the palate, the finish. Mm-hmm. The thing that's missed is the second pour and the back blast from the first. Now, a back blast is nothing more when you do your very first tasting. You're doing your eyes, your nose, your palate, your finish. You leave a little bit left in the bottom. Not very much, less like maybe a half an ounce. And you just put it to the side and just let it sit. Because, the less amount you have, the more it'll evaporate. So it's what it's going to become. So you do a second pour. I've had stuff that I thought was absolutely average to garbage. Mm-hmm. On the second pour, be really good. Because
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, so I think that I believe from what I see, most people do that, but most people don't say it. And and the reason I only know that is because I had someone said, "Do you mean a second pour on the same tasting?" I say, absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to have a gap, and then you need to go, and then your second pour is going to be what the master distiller wanted you to get to. Yeah. The back blast is what that will be if it's decanted. And I think that, I think somewhere along the lines, there has to be. So Daniel's asking, I have to know the story behind the Snuffleupagus.
Yeah.
I know the story, do it, tell it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Snuffy is actually kind of an in-joke with a bunch of my listeners. We were doing a hangout one night and we started talking about just randomly like our favorite Muppets and who the best Muppet was. And then it kind of delved into Sesame Street. And I'll give my answer for this because I fully believe this and I stand by it. There is no more interesting and better character on Sesame Street than the Count, because everybody else is just these amorphic, like animals, monsters, creatures. There's a couple of, Bert and Ernie are people, of course, but the Count is just a freaking vampire. Like, there's just a vampire who loves numbers wandering around Sesame Street, and everybody's just like, okay, that's fine. Just let that guy do his thing, which is cool. All about acceptance and whatnot, but it's just like, that guy, if he's had a bad day, he could take Big Bird down.
Yeah, like, right.
There would be no more Big Bird on Sesame Street.
Or Big Bird would be like, Big Bird would be like, three.
So the group consensus, though, was that Snuffy is kind of the unsung hero of Sesame Street.
Right.
He's always very quiet, very timid, but it kind of morphed into this thing where he became like the mascot for my live streams. So I am not yet at 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. So I have other methods, PayPal, Venmo, that whole thing.
Well, throw out your PayPal. Let Daniel throw it up there.
It is paypal.me/ I think it's either PRITT78 or PRITTER 1492. Well,
if you find it, throw it in the feed, and I'll push it on everyone. I don't have a lot of people, but my thing is that, Perry, you're the first person I ever sat down with, ever, from the tubes.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Okay, so it is paypal.me/ PRitter1492.
Yeah, throw it in the chat.
Yeah.
That way, any which I have can copy it, and anytime I throw it down, that they can do it.
Let me see.
I know,
get back
I know Rich is in here, and Daniel's in here, and those are my dudes. Like everybody has their dudes.
I got to pull. So I can't put in comments right from StreamYard. I have to hop over to. Excuse me. Actually, hop over to YouTube to.
Oh, you can't put comments in there. I can put comments in StreamYard.
Mm-mm.
So Daniel put paypal.me/ PRitter1492.
There it is. Yep.
All right, Daniel's got you. Daniel's got you. Yeah.
Oh, and Joseph said we also snuffy bombed several other live streams. So the other thing became that it's called Snuffy Squad, and that's those people who were there for that that hangout. And so they would go into other people's live streams and just do hashtag Snuffy Squad. Yeah. And I think it was Jason from Mash and Drum. They did that to him, and he was like, "What the Snuffy Squad? What are y'all talking about?" It was just beautiful, absolutely funny.
That's so much fun. Well, I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a person that'll go out of my way to boost anybody. That if I throw out something, it's because I believe in them. One, because I believe they're a good human, right? And the first quality someone has to be to me is a good human. Yeah. Two, they got to know what the hell they're tasting. They got to know what they're drinking, and they got to have a taste profile. I don't want someone that's out there that can put out funny content and not have a damn clue what they're tasting. It doesn't mean I don't like their content. It just means that I have less. I don't know. I just don't respect it. For you. Yeah. I just don't respect it much. I would rather have a quality audience than anything of that. I just don't care. Yeah. But I can say truthfully, I think you are arguably the most underrated YouTuber out there. You've been in this game way long time, Perry. A long time.
So
I echoed what they said the other night. I was so disheartened when I found out that you didn't have a Bourbon Bash invite. I was like, how does Perry not have that? How in the hell is that even possible?
So I'll speak to a couple of things here. First of all, thank you so much, as always. I don't do well with, and it's just a character flaw of mine, because the anxiety part of my brain just kind of shuts down a little bit. But I don't do super well with genuine compliments on the spot. And I am doing my best to express my gratitude and my thanks for that. But I truly, truly do mean it when I say thank you. So I've been doing this for 3.5 years now.
Yep.
I started in October of 2017. I was still in college. I was finishing up college finally after 7 years. And it just kind of started out as hanging out with my buddies, and we're having conversations and drinking bourbon together. And it's incredible what has been built around it since then, not just because of the work I've put into it, but also because of the people who feel so strongly about what I do and are so committed to the brand. And it's I have to, and I also really don't do well with kind of giving myself the credit that I deserve, but I am very aware of what I've done and my achievements. And I have to agree with you. I do feel like I'm slightly underrated in this community, and that sounds. Even the words coming out of my mouth saying that, I'm just like, get that. Like it feels,
I'll tell you right now,
feels wrong. It feels wrong.
There's a Brazo said something that I think is really important, right? So, and there's very few things in the world that listen, I know what I'm good at. And Joseph says, Perry does much better with criticism. Perry, you suck.
That's not to say, look, hold on. I gotta clarify something.
I know what he's saying.
I am perfectly fine with criticism. It'll eat me up for a couple of days and then I'll get over it and I'll be better. But I just, when I get genuine positive feedback and I get really nice and honest praise for work that I've done, it's just, I kind of just am like, like, thank you, but I don't know how to exactly react to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So, I'll give you an example, right? So I was on my Instagram feed earlier. I was on there for an hour and almost 2 hours.
Yep.
And I think I had two people. I had people jump on and off and on and off. But hey, listen, if I have one, then hey, listen, I'm happy. Yep. Now granted, I want as many as I can.
Sure.
But if I had one and if I had zero, I would go the whole hour and a half because, hey, listen, I can. And I realize that some people might do this. But I think the thing that to me, because in the areas that, some people might be strong or some people might be weak. Coming from the background that I come from, I know there's certain things that are important. And in that, it's just the idea of when I very first got into the tubes, not as a presenter, but as a watcher, right? I started with It's Bourbon Night because the Gunny said, hey, watch It's Bourbon Night. And when it was on, it was Perry. Perry would be on, and I'd be like, who's Perry? So I'd go over and watch this in My Bourbon Podcast. And I'd go back and forth and back and forth. The one thing I can tell you that is absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most significant thing I can remember at the time, I was a pretty decent Patreon of It's a Bourbon Night. The only person that came to actually meet me was you. And that mattered. Listen, but it mattered. Yeah. It does matter to just anybody, right? Because at that point, you became more than just a person, like a tube or whatever. You became acquaintance, and that acquaintance was a good, favorable acquaintance. You took the time. I could have been like the sickest, weirdest stalker in the world. I'm not, but I could have been. And, but the thing is that like, I will never forget. And my buddy who didn't know anything about bourbon was like, dude, that was so cool that he met you. So, but that's not average. So I can tell you in the areas that I do know, hey, listen, my dad was not the greatest dad, but he has certain things that were really, really important. And he said things that were really amazing. He would say, hey, listen, everybody has a certain way that they will say, I care for you. It may be they offer to give you something. They can say, I love you, or they can give you a hug. It's irrelevant. You can decline once, but after that, if they come back again, you must accept, because that may be the only way they can express how they feel. And I can tell you right now, I've had, and I said it earlier on my Instagram, without you knowing, I said, listen, there has been 4 people that has been very significant in my young experiences here, right? So
Sure.
on YouTube, you not only have shouted me out, we've spent time before. I've been on a feed with you before.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, Whiskey Crusaders, has had me on there, who I think Matt is one of the most stellar guys out there. Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. I haven't been on a feed with him, but I've met with him at his house. We've sat and talked and drank together. Chris from Hot Buttery Rolls had me on his feed. And when you talk about Chris and Matt and you and Jason C., I'm not saying anybody else isn't. Like Hindu, I think, is one of the greatest dudes out there that doesn't get on a feed and all that stuff. But when you have people that go out there and are willing to go above and beyond, it matters to someone that's just starting. Yeah, I'm an extremely confident dude, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, there ain't nobody can break my stride. I am El DeBarge all day long. No one's breaking my stride, but I will always give credit where I believe credit's due, and I don't expect you to sit there and be like anything else. I appreciate you. I was so excited when we did this. I was like, hell yeah, I will have Perry on it.
So again, sincerely, thank you. And the anxiety is getting a little bit better of me, but
let's talk.
Yes. But I'll say this real quick and then we can move on. But genuinely, thank you, you guys. The people who, even if they don't say it, even if they are not as vocal about it, but are consistently supporting what I do, those are the backbone of the successes that I have had over the past 3.5 years. I have absolutely worked my butt off. I have gone above and beyond to make experience with this podcast unique and fun and exciting and entertaining and just its own thing. And people either love what I do or they hate what I do, and that's fine. I can't please everybody. I used to be a very big people pleaser, but I'm just very thankful for people like you, Bobby, and for everybody who has stuck it out with me or hopped on along the way, or maybe they left for a little bit and they kind of came back, or because truly, and I'll say this until the podcast doesn't exist anymore. And by the way, it's going to be around for a long time.
It's going to be around.
It's going to be around for a long time. But I'll say it until the day I close the doors. Couldn't have done anything with this without people like you and without the supporters for the show. So
Daniel was on here, and Daniel was like, "Do we need to leave you two?" I told Daniel, I was like, "Hey, listen, you're a dick." I didn't say that. Like Daniel's the dude, right? So
yeah. Also, cheers to you too, Richie Z. Richie Z's been here for a long time.
Richie Z is right there.
So
James Morgan, yes, I would absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, recommend Mellow Corn, because the thing that comes with Mellow Corn is incredibly unique. I think with the Mellow Corn, you have this very weird presence of the idea that you don't have a bourbon. However, there's some strange shit with the Mellow Corn Bottle and Bond that you look at, and so you're corn forward. You have this sweet nose, but I think the things that you're looking for with a bourbon that's charred, and this is used, so it's somewhere between if you looked at like a bourbon and a Scotch that didn't have a smoky flavor, and you were trying to figure out, hey, what does a bourbon taste like if it's not on a heavy char, right? Because most of them are. most of your big brands are a char 4. And that number 4 char gives you that big color and that presence that comes into that. I think the thing that's important about the mellow corn is it takes you back to just a corn whiskey. And with that, you have to figure out, okay, if I start with the corn, where do I go from there?
Yep.
And the bottled and bond, you know what you're getting with a bottled and bond. And it is just really, really, I'll be honest with you, it's really good. I did Evan Williams earlier today, and they're fresh on my nose and they're fresh on my palate. And I would probably put this mellow corn somewhere in the middle of my Evan Williams bottle and bond. It's not a bottle and bond Evan Williams. It's not a master blend, but I would probably put it above the 1783 because the 1783 comes off as a weird citrus note because of the way the lightnesses of it. It comes off very citrusy. I remember thinking it was very orange zest forward. This does not that. It's not that at all.
No. Joseph says it sounds like a bourbon flavored new make. Kinda. I mean that's not inaccurate. I was talking about when we were talking about the finish on the mellow corn earlier, I was bringing up those bourbon flavors that were, that we all gravitate towards as being what we love so much about bourbon. And
I don't know that a novice person could tell that wasn't a bourbon.
To be quite honest with you,
I think the only thing is like the basic vanilla caramel kind of. Yeah. I don't know that it was far away.
No, it's definitely not far away from a young bourbon for sure.
I think that's the thing. If you took a bourbon that was maybe 2.5, 3 years old, I don't know that you could tell the difference.
The mellow corn is bonded, Daniel.
Yeah, it is bonded.
Hey, cheers to you, James Morgan. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, James Morgan is a good dude. Daniel, the mellow corn is this. Hold on. Get over here. It is a bottled and bond. Right?
Yeah, too far away. Bobby, do you know that you can highlight comments on StreamYard?
You know what? I don't even know how to.
All to do is just click on it from the comments.
What? Hold on. Let me. How do I click on it? Just click on it?
Just click on the comment.
Wow, holy mother humper. But that's the thing that's the beautiful thing about it, right? If you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. See, that's the thing, dude, is like everybody has figured this out along the way, one way or another. And everybody is trying to help everybody else out. Well,
I think the thing that's important, right, is that, listen, I wasn't a StreamYard guy at all. The thing I realized that on YouTube, I couldn't add people. And I want as many people as I possibly have. I want to talk. Listen, if you haven't figured out by now that I'm a talker, then you don't know me. I'm a talker. I could talk. I could do a StreamYard easily for 6 hours because I can drink 6 hours. I have a particular set of skills.
I'll tell you, man, speaking of talking for 6 hours, a few weeks back, I did an all-day live stream on my YouTube channel trying to get to 1,000 subscribers.
I jumped on there.
How long did I go? I went like 8 or 9 hours.
Like a long time. Hey, you did a good job pacing yourself.
I had to, man. I had to. And like I noticed early on that I was starting to like get a little too into it. And I was like, well, we better slow it down. I ordered some food and, having plenty of guests on helped too, because then I could actually talk and I wouldn't, be drinking as much. So yeah, I came out of it pretty good. I was just exhausted by the time it was over.
Here's Adam. Adam from Livewire just jumped on.
What's up, Adam?
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I'll
tell you what, I guess we should.
I will have so much fun with clicking on shit. I probably will. You know what? You ruined my feed. I'm such a. You know what? There's so many things about me that's not a noob, and there's so many things that are, right? So,
Sure.
in the overall thought of things, am I new to bourbon? No. I mean, I've been doing this since '98, and me and my brother have notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks.
Yeah.
Of tasting profile. We've done blinds, double blinds for. I'm telling you what, I can tell you like the proudest moment I had before I ever got on the tubes. Me and my brother did a Pappy versus a Mr. Shits. Mr. Shits just jumped on here. Are you familiar with Mr. Whiskey? You know, Mr.
I am not
Whiskey?
Actually. I do not know.
Mr. Whiskey Shits, go sub. If you haven't, you need to go sub. This is My Bourbon Podcast, Perry.
Please do.
He's one of the patriarchs for me even joining this world. So, but Mr. Whiskey Shits
can I say something to that real quick
Yeah.
too? This I know that we're trying to get past the the early days conversation of the podcast, but I was really fortunate to. I think I got onto the podcast, the bourbon podcast scene, right precipice before everybody wanted to do one. Like,
yeah, you were.
I know that there were a good few that were out there. Of course, Bourbon Pursuit. The podcast had been going for almost a year at the point, or no, they'd been going for like a year and a half. All the ABV network stuff. Gosh, I can't really think of. Oh, well, Mark Gillespie's show. Why can't I think of it? I'm a jerk. I can't believe I can't think of a show right now.
You see that? I just posted.
Oh, what up, dude? Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers to you too, man. That's awesome. Hey,
yeah.
You're part of the silent majority. You are some of the guys that keep this show going for sure.
That's right.
Cheers.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm gonna drink to that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have a drink with you. Because hey, I'm good at drinking.
That's awesome. That was right there. I needed that.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I was gonna say is that I got very fortunate with the community not feeling an oversaturation of bourbon podcasts out there, and I think we're at that right now. And I just, it's nice to have done things when I did. Can I show you something cool real quick, by the way?
Yeah, you can show me anything, man.
So
except for like bad things.
So all right. So the bar that I'm standing at actually was made for my I guess you would call it senior thesis or senior project when I graduated. And what I did was I rebranded Wild Turkey. And I'll actually show you the barrel head that I made with it. So
look at that.
So
nice.
that's the logo that I did when I rebranded their line and their products and everything. And I had like coasters made up too, and I had like bottles with labels on them and everything.
Nice.
Those bottles broke in transportation at some point, so I don't even have like the originals, but they were just kind of taking up space. But I love this logo.
There you go. Look at that.
So much. He's one of those people who's listened to every single Timbit podcast. Not many of y'all there, honestly.
Listen, I'll tell you right now. I can remember when I very first jumped on and was watching It's Bourbon Night, and going through that, Joseph was always mentioned. And when I went over to you, I don't think there's ever been a time. So I knew Joseph before Joseph knew me. And the thing that I've realized, right, and I didn't know this early, right? I think that's the thing that you have to get to the point. He is. So there's a select group. So in my world, there's like Joseph, Richie Z, and a select group of people that support everybody as much as they can, which is hard because there's a lot of people. It's grown so much.
Absolutely.
And but Richie Z and Joseph, and it's getting bigger. There's a bigger group, Daniel Houston. It jumps on a whole bunch of stuff. Richie Z's there, Joseph's there, you start seeing like Kitty's on there, and there's this group of people that, hey, I don't have my tube, but I support those people that are out there doing something that either they don't have time for or can't do, but they are the people that you want to keep going for. And
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I respect the hell out of those guys. You know, and listen, COVID, I don't know that I would have ever jumped on had it not been for COVID. I was an 85% traveler.
Yeah.
And I went from 85 to 0. And I was like, dude, first of all, I'm home. That's hard. I haven't spent that much time with my wife in like 20 years. It's like, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
And she has her things, I have my things, you know, and that's the thing that's beautiful. Like, so this year is like, this coming September is number 30 for us. We've been married 30 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Well,
good for you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah. We've been together 32, and I've known her since I was 9.
Yeah. I think I remember you telling me that actually when we met at OBC.
God. Thank God for bourbon. No, I love her. She's an amazing woman. She's happy with what I do. She has her thing. I have mine. And
hey, so Daniel said, I've missed every single.
I disagree terribly with what Joseph put up here.
So Daniel, I know you say you've missed every one. You'll catch them in the future. Luckily for you, I know it's kind of a little daunting, but we have a back catalog of almost 175 podcasts that you can go through. So anywhere from news to conversations to reviews and lots of interviews. It's my favorite thing to do in the world, is interview people podcast. But that's just wherever you listen to podcasts. I used to have a thing that would automatically upload them onto YouTube for me, but that thing got shut down somehow through my podcast hosting service. But there's a lot of that content that you can go and check out, and a bunch of old live streams on YouTube as well. So there's plenty of stuff, but thank you. I appreciate that. New episodes come out every Wednesday.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, right? So while we're on here, when is your normal time that you do your regular podcast?
Yeah. So, I don't, it's funny. I've thrown this around a lot and probably will wind up doing it eventually. But I don't record the podcast itself on video or stream it anywhere. I did it for a little bit for my Patreon page, patreon.com/My Bourbon Podcast. Nice and subtle, I know. But we record once a week, and every episode comes out on Wednesday. But my live streams that I do are every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm also starting to do some YouTube content other from just the live streams. I've got my first video coming out next week. I've got some stuff I've got to shoot for it. I've got some recording audio, some music I've got to get recorded for it as well. But again, lots of content out there. So,
hey, are you familiar with Adriana from Whiskey Mountains?
I am recently familiar with Adriana. She is awesome.
So you're subbed? You're subbed with her?
You know, I am not entirely sure. I need to be.
Oh,
she's in here.
She's in. She just jumped in. Adriana.
What's up, Adriana?
Adriana, listen, her and I are like the newbie squad. We're the newbie squad.
Adriana, so I heard you had a really good live stream for the first time the other night. So
listen,
very cool.
Her very first live stream had 103 likes. I've never had that.
Yes.
I've never had that. But you know, the cool thing is like I can remember like her very first live was her and I on Instagram. And
nice.
listen, Adriana is, there's very few people in this world that I will sit there and hype up. And I enjoy anybody that's genuine. genuine and amazing and nervous. And if you're not nervous and you're not confident in your beginning, well, you should be, right? Because you want to do good. And I think nervous thing is a good thing. Nervousness and anxiety comes from a desire to be good. If you don't have a level of that, now it could be because you've done it enough that you've gotten acclimated to it, just like your palate with whiskey, right?
Yeah, sure.
Somewhere along the lines, like I went back, I jumped on, me and her had talked. She happened to go live during my Wednesday. And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I said, listen, trying to figure out YouTube is hard. Everybody has a time slot.
Yep.
I said, listen, you do you, and I will try to wrap up early enough to jump on. And I did. I wrapped up and all that stuff. Because, listen, I think everybody has a place. And it's not my job to make you think, hey, you should watch me. I have a palate. And if I line up with your palate, then yes. But if Adriana lines up with it, or if Jason C lines up with it, or Scott, my bourbon lines up with it, or Chris Hot Butter, your job is to explore who lines up with you.
Yep.
And absolutely. In that, if we as a community, and I think this is the one unique thing that's in the YouTube world, or at least the whiskey tube, everybody here supports the idea of you may line up with me or you may not. Find the person you line up with. That is not Instagram. I can tell you right now, that is not Instagram.
Well, I mean, Instagram is so...
It's a bunch of pictures and like butts and things.
Well, here, Instagram is influencer driven, whereas YouTube is creator driven. Right. And I mean, there's definitely overlap between the two, but even if you're talking about outside of bourbon, outside of whiskey, the communities within YouTube are phenomenal. Truly, they are so cool. Whether you're a sketch comedian, you're seeing, or whether or not you've got a podcast, just a general podcast, or you're into video games, or you're into mechanics, or comic book movies, whatever, the community for it and a lot of it has to do with due diligence and whether or not you're a kind-hearted person for the most part. But it's not hard to become one with that community and to get that support. So, I don't know if it's a visibility thing or just maybe it's because YouTube's been around so much longer.
With what you said, right? Like if you look at the turds, right, the shelf turds, they first came out, they were not whiskey people. They weren't bourbon people, whatever. They were just a fun-loving couple that liked to have fun and be silly. And they found an identity. And in that, their identity changed to, hey, listen, you have this YouTube world, but the people that identified with them and enjoyed them was the bourbon community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so they found that, hey, listen, we fit into the bourbon. They didn't go in seeking the bourbon community. The bourbon community seeked out them. And in that, there's a loyalty. There's a strong loyalty to the bourbon community. And in that, you have this thing, right? Whether you line up or not, most people in the bourbon community will support the bourbon community in YouTube.
Yeah.
That does not line up with Instagram.
Joseph Brazo has officially named his channel.
Okay, you convinced me to start a channel. Keep an eye out for bourbon bunghole. It better be like it better be like a barrel that's missing its hole. Okay, so we're on really. We need to move on. So we're Elijah. Are we going to Toasted Barrel?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go to Toasted Barrel. So we're going to Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel. So I am on the newest Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel 94. It's 47% ABV, which makes it a whopping 94. Duh. And so
I'll pose this to you, but in terms of toasted products, toasted profiles, do you prefer this over something like a Michter's Toasted, or do you find the Michter's to be the better of the?
I gotta say, I like Michter's better.
Most people do.
I do like it better.
I fortunately am not in that camp.
I had it, and I thought the thing that it was missing, and you know what? Now I can easily eradicate that, and we will do this on this stream. So I won't say it ahead of time, but there is a way to change that. I've done this with the Gunny, and the Gunny. I've done it with the Gunny.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. So
the Gunny agrees. There is a reason why, and there's a way to rectify that. But you know, the thing that's like beautiful with, if you happen to be an outdoorsy person, Toasted Barrel brings to mind that really, really annoying fucking human that likes to go above the pit, and he is diligent, or she is diligent, to toasting her marshmallow. However, she doesn't want it burnt, or he doesn't want it burnt. Better not be black on that, or we're throwing it out. And I'm just like, I like a heavy char. Burn that shit for me. But I know where they're coming from, right?
Yeah, sure.
You can't put that to your nose and not think toasted marshmallow. It's impossible to not have. If you've been by a campfire and you've toasted a marshmallow, it doesn't matter that you're smelling the marshmallow, but the toasting of a marshmallow, that toasted product that comes off that is so, it just exudes. And I'm like Adriana. I'm a camper. I will go hike for 13, 20 miles, and I'll day camp, and I'm going to be over the top of a wood fire. You can't smell a Toasted Barrel and not think of a fire. And if you do, and you think I'm wrong, you're wrong. F off. It is what it is. But the only thing I think this guy misses is what we'll fix later. I won't even say it now, but we're going to fix it.
I very much know where you're going with that, and I'm super excited for it, especially done it once in the past, I believe. But it's I'm excited.
I'm excited for Joseph to put up a toasted bunghole. Freaking, I'll be the first Patreon you have. I guarantee it.
You know what? I think it actually should be called bleached bunghole. Personally, I think that's a much better.
Oh, dude,
method
that is absolutely like on point. It's like, I'll go shirtless and call it bourbon man boobs. Oh man, if I was outside, I would already be on a stogie right now.
So I love cigars. I love they. So I just, it's one of those things that I think it was 2019. Yeah, it was, where I indulged a little bit more often. But COVID had something to do with it because I was home so much more, and my wife.
Well, COVID, you're a dad.
But
duh.
Well, see, that's the other thing too, is that I don't. Yeah, I don't. If I'm going to be outside if I'm going to be out on my deck, it's going to be with my wife and my baby. And
it should be.
I don't like to get that smell on them. I don't want my poor child to get secondhand smoke that early, especially from a cigar. And it's just like, I always feel kind of dirty after I smoke a cigar. Like I need to brush my teeth like 8 times and take 3 showers.
Listen, I'm going to give you some keen insight, right?
Okay.
You don't have to brush your teeth. Jif peanut butter, 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon of Jif peanut butter cancels that shit.
Okay.
But hey, listen, if you're a baby, like I was my grandson earlier, you put the baby here, your cigar here, and you blow it. And he looks at you like, my grandpa is badass. He's
how old's your grandson?
18 months.
Awesome. Very cool.
How old's your child?
She is almost 6 months. She will be 6 months in 13 days.
Adriana's like, Bobby loves his peanut butter. You're damn right I do. You are absolutely right.
That's good stuff.
Listen, if I brought Mrs. freaking Bobby Luscious in here, she would say, like, get him to stop eating Jif. Impossible.
Incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this toasted barrel, man. Let me say something about this first. I have a great relationship with Heaven Hill. I'm very fortunate that when a new release comes out or they have a new product on the horizon, I, get those press release emails and I just email right back and I say, hey, can we get this for review for the podcast? And I think I have like a 99% like positivity rate, I guess. I don't know. It's usually a yes is what I'm trying to say. And the one time that it wasn't was with that exclusive Heaven Hill product that came out last year. Can't remember for sure. Doesn't matter. Anyway, from day one, when the press release came out for the electric toasted barrel, I was like, this is it, man. Like this is the game changer. This is the thing that I want to see on my bar all the time. And sure enough, I mean, it lived up to expectations for me. And we'll talk about this as well once we get into the next little thing that we keep teasing. But there is something I would like to see with it, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. But Adriana is like, if you know Adriana, right? It's pretty simple. She is a diehard Knob Creek person. I would love, and I may be the person that sends her this blind. If not, if not me, Hendo, one of us needs to do this. We need to send Adriana a double blind, because I think that I can sway her. She's so Knob Creek forward. She's like diehard Knob Creek. And if she knows it's Knob Creek, she will pick it all day long. But there are deceptors. And I will say Decepticons, right? There are people out there that can like deceive. I think that I could pull her off of a Knob Creek winning it, right? And you know what I'm saying? There's a winner out there that could like put some things out there.
I mean, I can name one, and that's going to be what we have to drink next. So
yeah, I think so. You could put that if you're going into, and I think that this is the thing that is probably the most unspoken thing. And I brought it up in a couple of different groups. I said, hey, listen, there needs to be more double blinds, because a double blind, not only do you know what's out there, what order, you have no idea what you're tasting. So just go double blind. You don't know if it's what it is at all.
Do you want my hot take on double blinds?
They're awesome.
Okay. Yes. But I love them. I love doing them.
You hate the results.
No. Not at all. Not at all. They have become too trendy as content creation.
Well, I don't want to do it as content creation.
Yeah. So, but like, I do agree with you though, that they should be done more for people to understand what they like and they dislike.
Exactly.
But, like, there have been so many double blinds on for whiskey content creators recently that it's almost overwhelming at this point.
The thing is that you can get lost. So I can tell you the thing that's enjoyable about a double blind, right? So James Morgan just said, "Hey, did you get Bobby's Knob Creek blend?" I'm telling you right now, Adriana, I know you don't have, I think you just had a tasting, but if you didn't do that blend, I'm telling you right now, that blend was dope. So on Wednesday, I did a 3x3 and I called it the trifecta. I did Knob Creek 9, 12, and 15, 3 years apart. And by the end of it, I tasted them all, I reviewed them all, and I was like, hey, what is this missing? What is this missing? What is this missing? And it was really simple, right? Knob 12 was the base. We did 2 parts Knob 12, 1 part Knob 9, 1 part Knob 15. And it was the absolute, beyond a shadow of a doubt, best blend I've ever done. And I do blends. That's blends. Incredible. And I'm really, really comfortable. And I think I can talk with anybody about blends. And I think the thing that's important about it, like if you look at Knob 9 and what it brought to the table, right? Knob 9 is going to bring 120 proof. But it's not got a great. It's a great. All 3 of them are great. But all 3 of them are not the best they could be. Knob 12 is the best of the 3. The thing that you have with Knob 15 is it's heavy tannings mid-palate. So if you go to a heavy tanning mid-palate, you start getting that heavy bitters, heavy wood, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Knob 9 is 120. It's very light. Knob 12 is delicious.
Yeah.
So we did 2 parts Knob 12, 1 Knob 9, 1 Knob 15. And the Gunny said here, listen, there's a lot of people that know their palate. I don't know that there's anybody in the tube universe that has been doing this since 1978. The Gunny has. Mm-hmm. And the Gunny's like, he did that and he looked at me and listen, not only is he the Gunny, that's my brother. And he looked at me and he's like, that's the best blend I've ever had. He said, awesome. We need to go out and light a stick. And it was delicious.
So here you were halfway through explaining that, and it hit me that you were talking about the 100 proof versions of those products.
Yep.
I thought you were talking about the single barrel 120 proof versions of those. As much as I want to try that 100 proof blend, I really want to try a 120 proof blend in 3 different things.
The knob 9. So make Knob 12 your base. And anytime that I say base, it needs to be 2 parts. I promise you, don't ever measure anything. If you measure it, you will mess it up.
I'm still here. Sorry. I had to go to my cabinet for a second. I'm sorry.
Joseph, it's perfectly okay. I'm from Ohio. We shorten everything. We don't get to the G. Tanning, whatever. Hey, you know what? But, I think the thing is that when you take a Knob Creek 9 that's 120, not the single barrel, just the Knob 120, The Knob 120 is really, it's really good on its own, but Knob 12 has the better viscosity, has the better coating. It has the sweet thing. Well, the Knob 120 is really, really, really light, citrusy. It brings this thing forward that you're like, wow, it doesn't have this like heavy coating. It's good. It's really good. But if you take Knob 12 as a base and do just a non-poured thought and say, I'm going to take Knob 12 and throw in what I think is two parts. Throw Knob 9 1 and Knob 15 1. You introduce a proof and tannings, right? The tanning Joseph, comes from the 15, right? It's a really woody. It's woody on the mid palate. If you do Knob 15 on the palate, it doesn't hit you. Like, so I'll say this. Do you find that, Perry, on things that are heavily wooded with age, I usually find the tannings and the wood on the finish. The late palate.
Absolutely.
Lights up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Knob 15 is weird. It's mid palate. It hits you mid palate, and it's like, boom, I'm here. And it's weird because it's only 15 year. I've had 23s that don't even come close to that. I've had rhetoric, which is 25, that doesn't do that.
Right.
And I think that somewhere along the lines that, so I was like, okay, well, how do I take a base that is like the best of those? Knob 12 is the best. Add proof, add tannings. I'm telling you right now, if Adriana does that, Nick is in for a damn good night.
I gotta try it now, man. That sounds awesome.
It's stupid. It's like really good. Like I can't explain why Steve's like, how did you get to this point? I said, I don't know. I was a fat guy that liked food and I tasted everything. So I don't know. You know, COVID was good for me. I lost like 130 pounds and got in shape. So
man, I was the opposite. I put plenty on, buddy.
You know what? But tonight we're not doing beer, so you're not so belchy.
Woo, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Hey, I am going to be right back.
Yeah,
I just need to hop off for 2 seconds, and I'll be right back with you.
I got it. So I think the thing that's important, right, is understanding that the thing that's really enjoyable about figuring out this is just being really true to your Joseph. He's such a I love him, but hey, tannins require a plastic bed with the lights. You know what? You're not wrong. You know, so I think the thing that's really funny is that, listen, explore your palate. I think that it's like so important. Like it's one of the most misconceived perception. You don't have to just, it's perfectly okay. Joseph, you kill him. You're killing me. I think somewhere along the lines, you have to be comfortable with you. What do you like? What is it that you're tasting? What is it missing? So don't change. What is it that you're having? What's it missing? What do you know it's missing? Add it. Just add it. That way you're not like wasting anything, right? I don't care if you spend $12 or $100 on something. That's your money. Don't waste it. I swear to God, don't waste it. If you don't know how to do it, call me, text me, DM me. Hey, I have this shit. I don't know what to do with it. I'll tell you what to do with it. It's just being comfortable with your palate. Oh, yeah. Oh, you better give me ideas. I can do some ideas. Well, I think that's the thing, right? So if Richie Z's on here, Richie Z will tell you right now, he has drank some serious blends that are things that someone would drain pour. And when I see someone drain pour something, I was like, you know what? What kind of bullshit is that? You can't drain pour something. You know what drain pour tells me? You have no idea what the hell you're doing. You just don't know. James Morgan needs some fixing of a scotch. All right, let me go up here. Let me go up here and look at James. He's a savant. Cheers. You know what? I think the thing is that all those things, listen, you can do amazing things with a lot of stuff. And in that, you just have to know your palate. It's not my palate. It's not Joseph's palate. It's not Adriana's palate. It's what is your palate. You taste something, you're like, what's it missing? And then you look at that and say, okay, if that's missing, what is something I know that can replace that? And then you just add. And then you figure that out. So I think that's the thing that's like lost in translation, is the idea of thinking that some people don't know what to do. Yeah, Joseph, you are lying. You did like straight up drain poured Eagle Rare. If they were moldy, it's because something happened to the cork. I can't imagine that. Bobby is an export and Blad knock new make. I don't even. Daniel, you're right. Not musty, but moldy. Well, I think the thing is like, were they moldy because there was air? Did you get air into it? Or was it, I mean, I've never had an Eagle Rare that was ever moldy.
I don't think I've ever had a single bottle that was moldy. But
no, I mean, I know how it could get that way, right? If for some unfortunate reason you had an air pocket, man, I could see you could get that. And I don't think the air, you wouldn't get a moldy because of the liquid. You might get moldy because of the cork.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it on the liquid, but you might get on the cork.
Yeah, that's
I would say more along the lines that like, hey, if you think it's moldy, pull the cork out and put a different cork in.
Both were new bottles. That's crazy.
That is, you know what? Then I can tell you right now, without a doubt, Joseph, if I thought I had new bottles that were musty, I would literally send a message to Buffalo Trace and say, hey, listen, I had 2 Eagle Rails and they were both shit. I mean, there's enough people that could back you. I mean, you are probably one of the most, you're up there as the top guy that supports every major channel. And if you said that and they said nothing, you could reach out to everybody and everybody would send something in and say, listen, Joseph said it's shit. Fix it. I mean, realistically, I don't know anybody that would back up Joseph. Joseph probably like straight up one of the most absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt honest dudes that has nothing to gain. He's just a good dude. Are you on A121?
I'm just about to get it poured up, if that's cool by you.
Yeah, I'm going to uncork mine.
I am very fortunate to...
I'm on
pick. Yeah, same here.
I'm here with you.
Very fortunate to have not only been able to have gotten a free bottle of this from Heaven Hill. Wow, I poured way too much. Okay. Whew, that's a Perry pour.
Just a Perry pour. I don't want to hear too much. I've been Perry long enough to know Perry pours. I said it on Instagram. I was like, listen, there's a strong chance that I'm going to do Perry pours tonight, and shit's going to get really.
Here's the thing. Once it gets to barrel proof, that's where the Perry pours kind of accidentally start to happen. But, so, my first bottle of this, I got from Heaven Hill, was sent to me by them. Very thankful for that. And I've picked up a couple of other bottles of it recently as well, because I think it's that good. I think they did a great job with this particular release. I think
so this is my recon report, right? I don't do uncorkings. I do recon. Recons are like, hold on. Oh, there you go.
I don't really do uncorkings either. I
do recon reports, right?
Yeah. I am kind of the same the same school of thought that Fred Minnick is, where like a proper review can't really come until you've had it at least 3 times. So I if I get a new bottle, I try to open it and taste on it a couple times, and then, you know, by the 3rd or 4th time, I become more acclimated to it, and then I can actually give my my thoughts and feelings on it. I don't always adhere to that, but that is kind of generally the way that I like to go about it. That's why you pour your own when you're at Perry's house. That's true. That is not untrue, Joseph. But
But I think that's the thing, right? So I think that it's like somewhere between the idea of what Fred says and a 6-step method. So you can't take your first 3 or 4 drinks off of the neck and think you're going to be like acclimated to what the master distiller was looking for. Somewhere along that lines, you have to like take a break, re-pour it, set something aside, and come back. Because I think that's where you come into like a totally different profile.
Yeah. And you were saying that earlier too, and I actually excuse me, I did that with the 94 proof Elijah Craig small batch, because it was a new bottle. I had to run out and get one because I realized that the only Elijah Craigs I have right now are store picks. But yeah, not the best bottle of Elijah Craig that I've ever had. I don't know if my palate's just off or what, but I was stunned. I was rightfully stunned. But you know.
Well, mine decanted. I was pulling mine from a decanter.
Well, there you go.
But this right here is like, so I'm going to say something, right? Because I think everything is subjective, right? And I think we all know this. You can say something that's like incredibly subjective.
Yeah.
I'm in Ohio. You're in Kentucky. We both have fairs. The Midwest has fairs, right? You have county fairs, you have state fairs, whatever. You know what the very, very first thing, which is like weird. I'm just being honest. The weirdest thing I pulled off this on the first nose. My very first hint was cotton candy. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that it's like what I got.
See, I totally get what you're saying. And this is what becomes so cool about individual tasting notes and everybody experiencing bourbons in their own way, whiskeys in their own way. I get what you're saying. And even as I was trying to pick up on that note, what I was kind of getting was more of like a light fruit note on there. Because I always associate cotton candy with just being really sugar heavy, and I'm honestly not getting a whole lot of that sugariness on it. That being said, though,
I think that's
I'm not saying you're wrong,
because I can tell you now that the evolution of it, and I'm pretty comfortable with my palate. It doesn't mean that any palate's wrong. Everybody has different things. You know, like to me, it has changed a smidge, and it's went weirdly buttery.
Mm-hmm.
I have a weird butter note that's coming in now. On the very first pallet, I had like this cotton candy, and now it's starting to go like buttery. I mean, I'm still getting like caramel corn, but I think that's because, you know, like if you go to the fair and get a caramel corn ball, it's like a caramel corn butter with caramel.
See, that's where I was starting to get towards, as you were saying that. For me, it's definitely in that I apologize. I say caramel, but whatever.
I'm from Ohio. We shorten everything because we're lazy.
Chad's from Kentucky. Out of his bourbonite is from Kentucky, and he says caramel. I don't know what's up with that. Doesn't matter. Anyway.
Well, his wife has a better tasting palate than him, so it doesn't matter.
Hey, also Whiskey Mountains, Adriana, thank you so much for stopping in, and thank you for the kind words. It was awesome to see you. We'll have to chat soon about doing something together.
Well, you know, there's this weird buttery. There's like this weird butter note.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like if you took like your basic Orville Redenbacher buttery popcorn that happened to somehow end up as a caramel popcorn.
Have you gotten to try the Thomas S. More products yet?
No.
When you do, let me know what you think of the Chardonnay finished bourbon, because that is my favorite out of the three. But I've also heard, and maybe I just need to go through and taste them again, but a lot of people don't like the Chardonnay finished one. So,
well, Chardonnay is always going to have buttery properties.
I know, yeah, and that was one of the so I was really excited for it, and it's something that I had been wanting to see for a while from a bourbon, was one finished in Chardonnay barrels, because of the fact that it's already coming in contact with another oak barrel. Chardonnay is in and of itself a very buttery wine, and I just wanted to see how those two things would work together, and I think it did it extremely, extremely well.
Well, I think
that other people have not thought that.
Chardonnay, right? In order to get that heavy, buttery finish, typically when you're talking about your white wines, especially a Chardonnay, in order to get that buttery finish that you want to pair with seafood, it has to come from French oak. And a good Chardonnay, is French oaked. If you have a Chardonnay that's not French oaked and they're putting on stainless, you're not going to get a buttery finish. That buttery finish comes from a French oak barrel.
Yeah.
If you take a bourbon and throw it in a Chardonnay French oak, you're going to start pulling French. You're going to get that buttery note.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's important, right? Because I was a wine guy way before I was a bourbon guy. And French oak is significant to Chardonnays. Chardonnay, if you want a good Chardonnay that's going to pair with seafood, you want to start a Chardonnay that's in French oak.
Joseph Brazo, not true. Many California shards can be buttery, but none of the French shards? Is he totally disagreeing with you?
Well, he can disagree all day long. It doesn't mean that I don't agree with what I said.
Just because you're right doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Because Joseph Brazu, listen, I've done plenty of Chardonnay, both in American oak, French oak, and basic stainless, right? Because a lot of times they put those in.
What is that? Okay, Joseph. What does malolactic mean? Does that have to? I can't even begin.
Well, we'll sit and see what it says. But I can tell you right now, French oak usually has a buttery finish. Now, me and Joseph are gonna end up like.
I don't like it when dads are fighting.
I'm not. I'm a grandpa.
Fair enough.
And I don't fight.
Oh man,
I don't fight.
Oh, no, I'm just messing. I promise.
Has a lot more experience with stuff than I do. However, I spent about before I ever got in the bourbon world, I spent a long time. So he says that's where the creamy buttery flavors come from.
I just don't know what the word malolactic means.
I don't either.
I'm trying to put it together.
I'm about to say, hey, Google. Richie Z is perfect. I got rare breed in my glass right now. Yes. Just don't mix it with beer.
I didn't do that, though.
You did yesterday.
No, I didn't. I did the Rebel in the
No, you had wild turkey rare breed.
But that's not what I did the Boilermaker with.
We had rare breed out there. What'd you do with it?
I paired it with the Narragansett.
No, you did that with Williams. You did that with the Elijah Craig. You did the Elijah Craig with your stop. You did the Elijah Craig.
But I dumped.
Well, at least you had it in the front of your camera.
Yeah, I know. Hold on. I had the Rebel Yell 100 with the Braxton IPA. That's the one that I dumped the bourbon into. Right.
But the wild turkey rare in the front?
No, I don't think. Oh, you know what? I wasn't displaying the Rebel because it was in my center.
Okay. You had wild turkey rare breed in the front of the camera.
Yeah, that's just because by that point I had moved it up because I had already poured it and I was kind of transitioning everything to the next thing. That's where that came from. Now I understand the confusion. Sorry, buddy.
I was like, why is he putting rare breed in what?
No. I was just trying to get rid of it so I could move on to the next thing. And it was the Rebel into the IPA.
Remember, I was like, no, don't do. Because I thought you were putting
more dads fighting Daniel. More dads fighting. Incredible.
Listen here.
I'm not fighting. I'm just trying to tell you what really happened. And that's the tooth, man. Anyway, back to bourbon. I apologize for that break in our regularly scheduled program.
I'm no dad's fighting. I'm a grandpa. Now,
so we kind of teased this earlier.
Yeah.
But how to make Elijah Craig toasted barrel better than it is now, and to elevate it past Michter's toasted barrel. Do we want to go ahead and do that? Because
So you have to have 2 parts, at least 2-to-1 of your barrel proof, the toasted barrel. So I'm at this point, right? Pretty significant Perry pour here. You have to put that toasted barrel in there, right? So I'm going to toasted barrel change it. So I'm going to add these 2 parts to this, right? So I'm going to let this marry for a little bit. So I'm 2-to-1 Elijah Craig barrel proof H121 to the toasted barrel 94.
Well, so I can't find my funnel, so
we just pour it straight. You don't have to be perfect about it.
I don't care.
Yeah. So I think that if you just take an average 2-to-1 and let it marry a little bit. The key is too many people drink it right away. You can't drink it right away. You got to let it marry up a little bit. Now, what I expect is that the overall complexity of the A121 will be kicked down. So you're talking about 123.6 mixing with 94. Somewhere along the lines, I think it's going to be probably Dino's on a B520 bottle kill. Wow.
Live wire whiskey. Which Thomas S. More was the best? I said the Chardonnay finished one was the best. A lot of people are saying the port. I've seen some people say, "Oh, is it Pinot Noir?" I think it's the other one. But Chardonnay finished is my favorite one out of the three.
Live wire, I think it depends on what your expectations are.
That too.
If you're looking to, hey, I want to, what's my best Thomas S. More that's going to go towards like a cigar? Port. Drinking? Probably Chardonnay.
So, Daniel, Bobby's beakers are. The reason I have these graduated cylinders is because of Joseph Brazo. He sent them to me specifically for blending a couple years back, and I figured I'm here. I can't find my funnel in here, though. I don't know what I've done with it. So, I'll have to find that. But it doesn't matter because it did pretty great. Oh, we've got an answer for the malic acid. Malolactic is what he said originally.
He said, Canditar introducing a particular bacteria during a second fermentation softens the tartness and introduces a more lactic acid, which softens and adds a buttery, creamy flavor. California doesn't allow more than the French. Well, that's because, listen, it's California. That's all I can say there. I live in Ohio. I work in California. I'm just saying. So I get it. But I think that's like really important, right? There's going to be everybody in the streams that's going to have knowledge that you may or may not have. And
oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I trust Joseph.
Same here, man.
Yeah, I trust Joseph. He has different things and he knows things that I don't know. I know the proper utensils to take out a tank. He knows what malic acid means.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, should we try this blend out? It's been sitting for a minute.
Have you smelled it?
I have.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's on point. Like,
yeah, man.
On point. Yeah, let's taste it. Oh, that's what I thought it would be. There's this like really, really sweet honey glaze.
Yeah, so this has turned it into what I kind of start to associate with a more premium bourbon.
Yep.
And it's that toasted finish in a barrel proof product. The blend of this makes me think of, I know I sound crazy, but it makes me think of Kentucky Owl. And Kentucky Owl consistently has that toasted marshmallow finish on it that just screams, for whatever reason, premium bottle.
Yeah, I think I agree completely. I think the thing that you have is like somewhere behind a toasted marshmallow meets a kick-ass fucking Bruce Lee.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Bruce Lee.
This is a great blend.
Marshmallow and kicked you in the face.
You know what I would like to you know what I would like to do is I would like to take a mini barrel and basically do this ratio blend and leave it in the mini barrel for, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month, maybe. See what happens to it, because not only are you introducing the charred profile, or excuse me, the toasted profile, but you're also getting a new char in there as well. So toasted barrel finish and a new oak finish.
Well, I think the thing is really when you do a mini barrel, right, it's really hard to figure out how do you go into your mini barrel and toast it, right? Because your mini barrels you get are not toasted. They're basically blank. But what you could do,
they're still charred.
Yeah, but what you could do is you can say, okay, if I go into that, what is something I would like? Do I want a higher proof? Do I want a mellowing? What do I want? And if you take 7 days of just mellowing it, you can take your mini barrel and infuse it with smoke, right? Just truly just pump smoke into it. And I think this is one of the things that I don't think anybody's doing enough of is, so there's different things that you can do with the smoke. Whether you're looking at hickory, pecan, oak, cherry, whatever it is. Hickory is going to proof it up. Applewood's going to knock it down. Cherry's going to tart it. And you might find that somewhere in the lines, you're going to want to blend smokes and just fill the barrel for 7 days before you put anything in it of just smoke.
Yeah.
Literally just fuse smoke into it.
Yeah.
And then put your stuff into it and let it set for 96 hours, 4 days. It could be longer, right? Like I can tell you right now, I have a concoction that Dusty Dan from the Whiskey Review. So like, I'll show you this and you'll be like stunned. I'm going to show you like, it's like, it's startling to me. So if you look at, this is Old Forester 1920. Old Forester 1920 is 115, and it's got a good color to it, right? It's got like a decent color. This is the same Old Forester. Hold on. That is Old Forester.
Wow.
That has been on smoke since February 17th.
Wow. Okay.
And if you look at the difference, it's significant.
Yeah. No kidding, man.
I mean, that looks like tar. The only thing that's been added to that is smoke and age.
That is wild.
Not in a barrel. It's in a canister. I just smoked it because Dusty Dan said, hey, I want you to make me a barbecue blend that I can drink with my barbecue.
Yeah, right.
Because then they're like, I know what that is. That is Old Forester 1920 with a blend of mesquite and applewood.
Nice.
So I put a big, huge mesquite and applewood smoke together and infused it in 1920 because that's what he wanted. And so, you know, you can go that. So there's, I think the thing that's lost is somewhere, because like when we spend a lot of time trying to find our palettes and trying to find what we like, somewhere along the lines, you're trying to figure out, hey, listen, we all know, and Joseph will tell you this all day long. If you're eating something, you're probably blending it or pairing it with a wine. Well, you can pair that shit with bourbon.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you take the time to think about it. How do I make that be this? And it might be a blend, a smoking, whatever. Just trust your own palate. Trust your own palate and be okay with it. Because if you look at that, the tartness of that and that, that's the same juice. And it does not look like the same juice stuff.
No, not at all.
The only thing that has is over a month of smoke.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I think the thing is
heck of a unique product too to undertake.
Yeah, it's just be confident in what you're doing and figuring out why you like what you like. And just, or you could just drink some 1920 next to a campfire. Listen,
that's true too.
I do a Fire Friday and I drink shit every day next to a fire.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we are over 2 hours, and I probably need to.
Yeah,
I probably gotta hop off soon so I can go see my.
What did you think of this blend? Did you like it?
But I think it's a great blend, man. I think that we were, kind of hyping it up as like a Michter's Toasted Killer. And I think that is indeed that. I think that it's got everything that I want from the Toasted Barrel. If they did a Toasted Barrel single barrel program at Barrel Proof, I would be all over it. I think it would be incredible. And, if we keep pushing, if we keep saying, hey, we kind of want to do this, then, maybe Heaven Hill will listen like they did with the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like, I would really like to see, and I don't have enough influence yet. A couple years from now, maybe. But the idea is, I think the thing that's lost in translation is there's a lot of stuff going on, and people are doing blends. I think of like the people that are out there, like, hey, how do we make a cigar blend and all that stuff? But the thing I don't see, and I'm like, surely I have. Listen, there's people way, way smarter than me, and like, why are you not smoking this shit? Because technically you're not really introducing anything other than air.
It's true. That is true.
You're not doing anything to it. You're just taking the time. So I think that somewhere along the lines that smoke infusion has a place. Listen, everybody that likes meat would definitely prefer smoked beef or smoked salmon over just cooked salmon or cooked beef.
Yeah.
So why aren't we looking at the idea that you might be able to find, besides blending it with something, you might find a smoke profile that makes it. And so I think that's the thing that's weird about it. So
yeah, man.
But dude, I am so happy that we had this, and we just I could talk for like 6 days.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. I'm
pretty sure that I'd be like, what are you doing? But I'd go.
I just sneezed.
So yeah. So if you happen to be someone on here and you know me, you need to know Perry. So this is My Bourbon Podcast, TIMPB. Look him up, searching, go on there. He's a patriarch that's lost in translation. I don't know how it happens. It's like the most irritating, frustrating thing to me in the world. So,
I appreciate that. I feel that very deep and on a very emotional level. But Bobby, thank you so much for having me on. If you want to follow my stuff, it's at My Bourbon Pod on all social media channels. Podcast goes up every Wednesday on your favorite podcatcher app. And then I go live on Thursday nights here on YouTube. You just search for this My Bourbon Podcast and it comes up. And then patreon.com/My Bourbon Podcast is where you can support the show as well for as little as $1 a month. $5 a month gets you bonus content, all good stuff, a lot of fun. Last year I did a run of episodes on the Patreon where it was called Last Call. And I still do Last Call every now and then, but it's not as produced as it used to be. And it was basically like a 20 to 30 minute sketch where Swan and I went to a bar after we got done recording the episode. And it's just so funny and so much fun. And yeah, go check that out. Again, thank you so much, Bobby, for having me on tonight. Yeah. It's great chatting with you, buddy.
Yeah. And for me, it's really simple. I have Patreon at Bourbon Battalion. I have PayPal.me/Bourbon Battalion. Anything that goes towards that goes towards me. I have plenty of things that I do on the Bourbon Battalion. I have merch. I have all kinds of stuff out there. And anything that comes to me truly just goes to the channel. I promise. Everything in my real world goes to my family. Nothing on my wife's like, what's in your Venmo? And I was like, you'll never know. It doesn't matter. She don't have the right to know that. But thanks, Perry. I appreciate you coming on. I hope you support both of us. It was such a fun night tonight. I look forward to doing this again. I will meet up with you. I will meet up with you for sure.
Sounds great.
And James Morgan just subscribed. So
thank you, James.
Appreciate
that, man.
One awesome. Closer. I know Joseph did. I know Dano did. We're 2 closer to your 1,000, which you should have had years ago, which is like ridiculous. I don't expect.
Don't know what to tell you, man. Don't know what to tell you.
I don't expect this stuff. Like, I'm not that far into it, but to me, it's like weird. Do you feel like it's weird that like a really old grandpa person is saying like you're one of the people?
No, I don't find it weird at all.
You were like one of the very first.
Yeah, no, I find it quite flattering, actually.
Yeah, well,
but yeah,
thank you. Hey, congrats! I know you got stuff to do. I appreciate it. I look forward to doing it again.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right, cheers, buddy.
All right, cheers. Bye, everybody. Thank you all.
Yep, cheers.
Bye.